Welcome to the Joe Monroe Show. Now, here's your host, Joe Monroe.
Hello, pro wrestling fans, family, and friends. Welcome back to a new episode of the Joe Monroe Show. It is I, Joe Monroe. Yes, I know we've taken a little bit of a break, but that's all right. We all need some rest here in every little while again. As you can see, I'm a little bit chipper than I have been the past few days, and I want to apologize again that I've been a gloomy goose. But we are back with another episode of the Podcasters Appreciation Month, and I have a really good friend of mine coming on. She represents not one, not two, but three shows, which I think is pretty cool. But before I bring her on, let me go ahead and shout out some sponsors here. First and foremost, let me shout out Phenomenal Finds ATL. If you're looking for anything retro, whether it be professional wrestling, Cartoon Network, anything like that, check out phenomenalfindsatl.com. They have a lot of cool stuff there, as well as our partners and sponsors, Triple Crown Wrestling and Ultimate Championship Wrestling, as they are bringing back professional wrestling as it should be to the great state of Kentucky, as well as Les Murphy Painting. If you have any painting trouble needs, contact Les Murphy at 734-334-3702. And also don't forget to check out something we're doing on the Joe Monroe Show once a month. It is called the No Sell Roundtable, or myself and a few of my friends from the podcasting world sit and talk about professional wrestling. First episode is now out on YouTube and Spotify, so go check that out. And I believe it is also on our Facebook page as well. All right, so enough me babbling. Ugh, I can't talk today, folks. I'm here with a very special friend of mine. As I stated earlier, she doesn't represent not one, not two, but three shows. And I'm happy and excited to have her on. She is our first female guest ever on the Joe Monroe Show. Ladies and gentlemen, Calamity Jayne.
What do you say, Joe? How's it going? Thanks so much for having me. Very appreciative to be the first female guest. Very groundbreaking position to have. I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm here on behalf of not only the Nice Guy Andy podcast, not only the Pro Wrestling World group, but also my buddy Superfly Johnny Lee, the Rinky Dink BS podcast. We're going to censor ourselves because my buddy Joe does have some very important sponsors that we want to be respectful of. So, but yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, not a problem at all. It wasn't just me. A lot of the fans here, I said, who are some people that you would love to see on the show for Podcasters Appreciation Month? And believe it or not, you were the number one name. So, yay! You got fans out there. So they wanted to see, and as always, I am a man of the people. I give what the people want. So that's more than what Brandon T. Wilson can say. Oh, wait, did I say that? No,
coming hot out the gate with the Brandon T. Wilson burns. We still a little bit chapped about the I'm a little teapot spot, huh?
Hang on, I'm a producer. Dave sitting there shaking his head. Yes, I can do that. So I can do this as well, Dave. BTW sucks eggs. I can do that. Oh no, I can't do that. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
All right. Still writing on the little itty bitty whiteboard, huh? The budget.
No, actually, I can't say anything yet. I'll say something a little later on. I have some help now, and
watch out. Watch what you say about the boss.
I'm my own boss, but you got a good point there. But first and foremost, how in the heck did you get into this crazy sport of professional wrestling?
Man, we go way, way back. I'm actually 38. So I kind of came into wrestling by way of my older brother, Ray. Shout out to my big bro. Because without him, none of this would be possible. So really the golden age of like WWF and, Hogan, Savage, Andre. And I remember having uncles sitting around and wringing their hands, watching matches, just being glued. And for me, personally, as a little girl, it was Sensational Sherry. And I'm a wrestling manager now. So she was by far Queen Sherry, Sensational Sherry, did a number on me, man. Just sitting back and watching that, there was just nobody like her. And then a little bit later, there was a dead spot in women's wrestling, of course, when you had Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano. And, that was overall, it was a sad time, but for me, watching those two women go at it in the ring as, an 8, 9, 10-year-old gal, that influenced me. There was absolutely nothing and nobody like Bull Nakano. And, as far as like body positivity and her appeal and her style and her power, um, wow. So that got me into it. And I did a little bit of a stint right out of high school, and I did a little bit of backyard wrestling, very, very brief. And I developed a very rare eye condition. I wasn't licensed or anything. I was never professionally trained. Would have loved that. And I have a very rare eye condition. I'm actually partially legally blind. People don't realize that. It's not very noticeable because I typically wear contacts. And I was told that I needed to take it easy because I could risk retinal detachment. I am going to try to get cleared again sometime in the future. But, somebody told me, they were like, you love wrestling so much. You're very artistic. You're very creative. You love to write. Why don't you at least just get your feet wet? Just start writing again, because I was getting on all these forums. I had a lot of buddies on the pro wrestling world and pro wrestling world. And I was always mouthing off in the comments section, man. And the opportunity came up. They're like, hey, why don't you write for us? And then it became, why don't you do lives for us? Why don't you go live? Why don't you start covering some of the live events? And it's just taken off from there. So I have such a joy and a love for it. And it doesn't just stop at WWE. AEW also. I'm an equal opportunity wrestling lover, guys. The tribalism does not exist. And indie wrestling as well. Like I have such a love for the local wrestling and seeing all of the immense talent that we have in our area is phenomenal. We're so blessed that we live in such a hotbed of talent in the Tennessee and Kentucky area. It just blows my mind, man. We're just so incredibly talented in this area, and it's just crazy. Like, and you can drive. I live in Auburn, Kentucky, or Bucksville, is where Calamity Jayne is from. But if you can drive 2 hours or an hour and a half in any direction, and it's just incredible shows, just all around. It's just amazing.
No, I agree with you. Like this has been, especially after COVID-19. I know people are probably tired of me talking about it, but I think professional wrestling as a whole, especially around this area, has grown tremendously. Like you see, like this big new golden era of professional wrestling all the way around. Rachel Dombrowski. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Dombrowski.
Dombrowski. Haha, thank you. Yes, we love you, Calamity Jayne. Also, the show Heels. Yes, believe it or not, I actually am a fan of Heels.
Great
just,
TV.
just don't tell anybody. Oh, wait, this is live. Dang it. Okay.
Dang it.
And also our good friend Marcus Fon. You've probably seen him a time or two at wrestling shows.
Love Marcus and Kelly. Was very lucky to meet him and the lovely Mrs. Fon at the very first Triple Crown Wrestling show that I ever went to. I was very lucky to meet them, and man, just that's it's so cool that we're talking about them too, because the wealth of knowledge that you gain from going to that many shows is amazing. But also, I want to talk too about, it takes all kinds of fans. Like, we were talking about tribalism, and you talk about, like, it takes all kinds, right? And something that I want to encourage people to think about is, you have different levels of fans. You have different levels of not only wrestlers, or different levels. You have different levels of fans, different levels. People throw out the term casual. At one point, everybody was a casual. Everybody was a casual fan. Hey, Crystal. And you got to start somewhere. and just let people enjoy it, no matter what stage of enjoyment they're at. Just let them have it. Everybody can learn something from somebody. Um, Loving wrestling in any shape or form is a plus to me. When Iron Claw came out, there were a lot of people that came out of the woodwork and they gave Adele a hard time because it was Adele and she was a celebrity and she was a female celebrity, granted. And people were like, "What does she know about any Tokyo Dome matches?" And got all,
Oh God.
And it's just like, man, who cares?
Someone's in celebrity status, which back in the day, in that, well, we'll say in the time frame of world class, yeah, celebrities love professional wrestling. Oh, let's get caught up here. Brandon Wolf, a good friend of the Joe Monroe Show, was here.
Man,
It took some time, but finally has boomed in ways I haven't seen. Yes, it has. And Crystal, my work bestie, she is my work bestie. Let's
love Crystal.
see. Frankie Corleone. Frankie Corleone is part of the Mayhem family. Hey, Frankie, how you doing, buddy? Not much, just sitting here with Calamity Jayne. And what? I had no idea. Yeah, that came out literally right after, and thank God for A24 for that movie. I recently bought it, and I'm
So
trying to get
good.
my wife to watch it, but she knows it's about professional wrestling, and she's probably like, no.
Get the tissues out, Joe. Get the tissues ready. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
tearjerker.
I know.
I went to go
So,
see it the first night it came out, and I have never in my life been to any movie, wrestling or not. I've never been to any movie where the entire theater was just sobbing, and it was predominantly men. That was the craziest thing about it. But everybody left before credits rolled because they didn't want anybody to see him crying. Everybody
yeah,
left.
I mean, but you got to
That
think
good.
for that movie and that story, the real life story, it deals with a lot of men's mental health,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are
So
saying,
important.
Nate said, Nate, you definitely need to watch it. It's a great film. It hits pretty hard with the men's mental health, and I think that's what gets not only men but most people, like, mental health wise. It's like, wow, maybe I'm kind of going through the same thing, just not to that extent, or which nowadays, back then it was very frowned upon, especially for men to talk about your feelings and stuff. But now it's like, hey, if something's bugging you, just freaking talk about it, man. Uh,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, but uh, so you stated Sensational Sherry was your gal. She's also one of my favorites. Who else did you look up to growing up and watching professional wrestling?
Man, so outside of the arc of ladies, of the realm of ladies, of outside of Wonder Blaze slash Medusa, Sensational Sherry, because she really, you had valets and then you had managers. There weren't really a lot of female managers. You had Cornette, you had Heyman, which Paul Heyman to me incredible influence as far as managers go, and still is. I was just so happy to see him get inducted this year. Last year for me, Andy Kaufman. I'm a big cut up. I love comedy. Comedy's been a big thing for me, and comedy acting specifically. So I'm a big Kaufman. Andy Kaufman actually kind of drew me back into wrestling, and seeing Man on the Moon kind of brought me back to it. Al Snow, actually, big influence. I'm a big OVW mark, huge OVW mark. And one of his quotes, and I know people are probably like tired to death of hearing about Al Snow because of wrestlers. Um, but when I think about gimmicks and I think about wrestling in general, he has a really great quote that he did when he was doing an interview talking about gimmicks, and about how the best gimmicks are just somebody turned with the volume turned all the way up. I'm probably paraphrasing on that. Um, but it's just somebody with the volume turned way up. Those make the best gimmicks. And that's always really stuck with me. And then Paul Heyman has this really awesome quote that wrestling is an art. And I have a notebook that I actually keep. Roddy Piper is also a huge influence to me, just because he was just so incredible, not just in the ring, but also with ring psychology and on the mic. And how he always kept a notebook of phrases and stuff that he would say for promos or just in the heat of the moment. So I actually started doing that. I kind of pride myself on being clever and being, quick-witted. So I actually started keeping my own little notebook as kind of a shout out to Roddy Piper. And those two quotes, the one by Al Snow and the one by Paul Heyman, are in the front of my notebook. So there's some of my biggest influences.
So speaking of Al Snow, you kind of let the cat out of the bag a few days ago, or maybe it's about a week ago. Maybe it's been a few days. I can't remember half my days anymore. That you are going to be having a movie come out soon. Is that true?
No, actually, I did a movie in 2009 that was a comedy. This was back when I was a young pup. It was an indie comedy. It was never released and never will be released. Not due to any fault of mine. The team that worked on it was great. We had a great team of people that worked on it. Of course, obviously Al was involved. This was years and years before. I was very, very blessed to work on it, way before all of the wrestlers' glory, way before he was involved with OVW. But this was back in 2009. It was called Rose Colored Miles. It was an indie comedy. And I was this manic pixie dream girl that was the love interest of the main character. And she was a photographer, and she swore like a sailor. Like my entire script was just F-bombs and F this, F that. Everything that my character said was swearing, every single line. So unfortunately, it wasn't. I think there were some issues with like doing the final mixing and final editing, so it was never released. I do have an IMDb credit. It's my only IMDb credit that I do have, but it was from back in 2009. But it's never released. But what's funny is that it has ratings. It has terrible ratings on IMDb, but the movie's never actually come out, and it never will. But I'm still friends with the guy that directed it, Dan Lashley. Hey, shout out Dan. But I got to work with Al, and he was awesome. Like, he's just so, and of course, seeing him on TV, you have this opinion of like, Al Snow, what does everybody want? And he's just this larger than life kind of guy. And then you meet him and he's just like so kind and Al Sarvin, and he's just so not, he's not like that. He's just very just so very laid back. And then fast forward to, I was at and this was also before wrestlers. This was, I don't know, a few years ago. I went to an OVW match because I've been an OVW fan before wrestlers. Not trying to sound cool or anything, but it's kind of cool. I was a fan before it was hip, basically. But I went to an OVW match at the Logan County Fairgrounds, and Hollywood Haley J was there, and I followed her for quite some time. And Al was there, and Reverend Ronnie Roberts was there, and there was nobody there. It was a skeleton, wasn't packed. And that was so sad to me. But this was like, I think a year or two before Wrestlers came out on Netflix. And I walked up to Al and I was like, I don't know if you remember me or not. And I was like, we worked on a movie like in Franklin a couple of years ago. And he was like, yeah. He was like, I remember you. He was like, you were, and I was like, wow, oh, he does remember me. That's so cool. But it's been years ago. And what's funny is that because the movie was never released, I have been telling people for years, yeah, I worked on an indie project with Al Snow. And then everybody's like, yeah, right. because there's no movie to show for it. So I actually messaged the director and I'm like, hey man, can you just like send me the footage so that I can take some screenshots and like prove to people that I stood next to Al Snow, that I was physically in the shot with the guy. But he's got a new movie coming out, so I really kind of wanted to do it to time and kind of advertise that a little bit because he's just great and I just really look up to him. So, Al, if you're out there watching this, if you're one of the 5 folks that are watching this right now, um, I don't know, hire me as manager.
Actually, we got more than that, Jane. We're also on YouTube as well. We
Oh,
got a
okay,
lot
cool.
more people than that. So,
Nice.
but no, that's cool. Maybe the director would be like, "Well, I guess I'll release a director's cut. I don't know," and just send it to everyone that's been on the film, um, or just put it on Tubi. A lot of people are putting their stuff on Tubi, so
Yeah,
that
there
might
you
be
go.
fine with it.
We'll just do a Tubi release. No, it's terrible. Please God, don't do that. It was actually not very good, but no offense, Dan. Sorry. Please God, don't do it. It's awful.
So, well, let me ask this question, then we'll get to a little bit of a Q&A with all the people in here. Uh, what's something that you would tell someone? I always ask this. What's something that you would tell someone that's trying to go through um, reaching their dreams, reaching their goals? What's some advice that you can give them?
Man, don't take advice. Don't take advice from people that always have something negative to say. Don't share your goals with people that the first thing that comes out of their mouth is something negative. Um, that's something that I had to learn. I'm really kind of a soft-hearted person, and I realized, really honestly, in the past couple of years that I was looking for feedback from people that probably weren't the best people to take advice from. You should really only look for feedback from people that um, have similar goals as you or have a similar drive as you. Um, it's okay to talk to those people. It's okay to share what's going on in your life with those people, but don't expect quality feedback from those people. If you have a goal in mind and you know yourself and you know what you're capable of, go for it. If you see other people with similar skills doing what you're doing, go for it. Do it. There's nothing stopping you other than yourself. A lot of times people are their worst enemy. And I know that I have been absolutely I've always been self sabotaging in a way. And I would just encourage you to do your best. Don't surround yourself with negative ass, hateful people. There are a lot of them out there. They're all over the internet. Um, all you got to do is look in a comment section on any given video at any given time, and there's always going to be something with something not nice to say. And I adhere to the Thumper Rabbit school of thought. And if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then don't say nothing at all. So that's kind of my motto, and that's what I stick with. So just go for it. Just go for it, and don't worry about what people think. So if you
Well,
worry about what people think, that's the number one thing. And I don't get embarrassed. Um, that's probably a terrible thing. That probably has not served me well in a lot of situations, but it's served me better than worse.
well, I wish a certain kid would take that advice, but we're not going to go into that. Crystal says, "Oh, she loves Thumper." The Thumper will too. Yeah, no, I agree. I'll address that tomorrow. I'm not here to talk about that. But Jane, what's something that you hope to reach for? Kind of like your 5-year plan. What's a goal that you want to have for yourself that you've set for yourself?
I want to be the most notable female manager on the indie circuit, period. I want to shatter the expectations because I really, outside of Sensational Sherry, she really inspired me. And I know I keep going back to that, but she's my inspiration. I think she was groundbreaking, and I really don't think that there's anybody else out there like that today. Um, I think that there's a lot of, and this is not any diss to women that wrestle. I think that we have some incredibly beautiful, smart, intelligent. Um, the women wrestlers today are incredibly talented. Um, I want to be a Heyman in heels, basically. That's not something that I'm seeing. I want to bring something else um, to the table. I really want to see. I want to see more intelligent, more complex female characters other than just TNA. And I've seen improvements. I've definitely seen deeper characters and stronger characters that are written for women. Um, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that movement in professional wrestling. And if I have to be part of that and make that happen, it's just, we've gotten past the whole valets and arm candy and, bra and panties matches. And, those obviously served a purpose at one point, but we're past that now. And audiences are smarter. Wrestling audiences are smarter than people give them credit for. Um, and there are a lot of people in comment sections that say, women's matches are pee breaks, and but then you also have people that say that women aren't being written for appropriately, and I'm in that camp. I think that if you think that women's matches or women characters or pee breaks, then you're not paying attention, because they do have return and they do have value. So there we go. So that's my big goal. That's where I want to be. I want to not only be an interesting character, but I want to accompany and bring to the forefront and bring spice and feistiness to ringside. A good manager, somebody that is a good manager, somebody that's a talented manager, somebody that's an intelligent manager, brings value. And that has changed, and that market has changed a lot since kayfabe obviously is, a little different now in the age of the internet. It's kind of a different ball game. You have to be creative. You have to be social media savvy. So yeah, I think it takes a lot of talent. I think it takes a lot of creative writing. I think it takes somebody that knows a little bit about acting, and somebody knows about marketing, and somebody that's quick-witted. So I think I tick all those boxes, and I'm not going to stop until I make that mark. And I think women are more than valets. I had somebody ask me over the weekend, do you prefer being called a valet or a manager? And I said, I am undoubtedly a manager all day long and twice on Sunday.
No, but great goals, and I agree with you on that. I think women's wrestling needs to be because my daughter wants to get in it when she gets older, or so she says. We'll see after she takes her first bump when she gets older. But yeah, I love to see. Yeah, I would love to see what women's wrestling, not only for her but for the future of the sport of professional wrestling, just go up. I mean, we are seeing a better resurgence of it, and a better representation of it, but I think we can see a lot more. Excuse me, a lot more of a bigger representation than what we're seeing now. But looks like we do have some friends in here. Looks like we got Superfly Johnny Lee representing the Nice Guy Indie podcast on here. What's up, Superfly?
Man,
Sorry sorry about your recent injury, but brother, I seen. And apparently we got Diego. He's a weirdo, just like his brother, Party Man Cam. All right. Yeah, manager is definitely a better name compared to LA. I agree. Yes. I
Because
agree. And
I've got the brains.
James Kendrick says, Joe, that wasn't nice talking about me with the thumper. No, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking to some smart aleck kid that's riding his dad's coattails. But we're not here to talk about him. We're going to hear some questions. Do we have any questions for Calamity Jayne? Oh, good Lord. I'm not putting that on the show, Pops.
Oh, Pops.
Crazy old man. My question is, okay, Rachel got a question. How does the wrestling fan base feel about Glow on NXT? Ooh, that's a great question. Have you seen that series?
I love it.
I do
love
too.
it. Sop it up with a biscuit. Love it. I love it. I think the actresses that take part in it. I know. Well, first of all, I've watched the original Glow,
Mhm.
the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, which it's based on. If you've not seen that, you need to watch that also, because that's what it's based on. But I love the show too. It's cheeky. They did a great job paying homage to the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling as well, and it's campy, it's fun. Man, if you haven't watched it, also a great wrestling show, and you should totally check it out. And of course, I'm going to plug wrestlers at any given chance. If anybody in this chat, anybody that's watching this has not watched Wrestlers on Netflix, your homework is to go watch Wrestlers on Netflix, because it's so good. But yeah, I love Glow. Glow's so good.
All right,
Good.
and nice guy Andy podcast. This is probably Superfly talking, or it could be Andy. Either one. Jayne, what made you want to get back, right back into the world of professional wrestling, having been a part of it before, and what also caught your eye and reigniting your passion to be back? Ooh.
That is a great question. This is actually kind of sad. I got married in 2011. And things were good for a while until they weren't. And ladies, might resonate with some of you. It might resonate with some of you guys out there because, as men can be in abusive relationships too. It went sour, financially, physically, mentally abusive, and restrictive. And then when you're with somebody that's like that and they're not supportive of who you are as a person, and they're not supportive of the things that make you who you are, and you feel like you're walking on eggshells when you're with somebody that's like that. When you're with somebody that you feel like you can't take a deep breath around. That was the type of relationship that I was in. And then I had my daughter. I've got a 6-year-old daughter. She is my life. She is my world. And, I'm raising a future brave woman. And I wanted to set the best possible example. And when you go through stuff and you have somebody calling you names and you have somebody telling you that you're not worthy and that you're not worthwhile and that you don't mean anything, on a regular basis, you internalize a lot of that. And sometimes you put up with a lot more when there's not little ears around. But then after you have a child and there are little ears around to hear it, you kind of gain a little bit of courage because then you realize that you're setting the example. So I really put my foot down, and I made a game plan to get out of that situation. And then I had to start over again. I basically left my home. I basically gave this person the house. I gave this person the car. I left a lot of my belongings behind. I moved back to Logan County, which I never had intentions of doing, but I'm so glad that I did it now. Because I have a wonderful, loving support system here. I reconnected with a lot of wonderful, awesome people. And to make a long story short, I'm thankful because that reignited the things that I couldn't do, things that I couldn't enjoy. I got back in touch with what makes Jayne Jayne. What does Jayne like to do? Not what does this other person like to do? Because if you've ever been in a restrictive relationship, like you become like they become like a parasite. Your interests become their interests. Their interests become your interests. You're not allowed to have your own hobbies. And it was that way with wrestling. It was that way with video games. It was that way with comics. I could only like their kind of music. I could only enjoy the things and movies that they liked. And anything else outside of that spectrum, that tiny spectrum, was frowned upon. And wrestling was one of those things that, was super frowned on because it was so weird and strange and, oh, that's so strange. Girls liking wrestling, meh. And they weren't a wrestling fan. So that wasn't something that I was allowed to enjoy. Well, guess what? I'm going to enjoy it now and I'm going to savor it. And I started watching live events and getting back into it after years of I'm talking years of not watching wrestling. I got back into it and I've just loved it and enjoyed it ever since. So that was the big spark. And, not having somebody that was constricting, didn't have anybody that was breathing down my neck and telling me that I couldn't perform anymore because there was a jealousy issue or, that was a big part of it too. I had somebody that was extremely jealous, extremely possessive, didn't want the male gaze on me. And that kind of goes back to having a secure partner. I think if you're going to be in wrestling, if you're going to be involved in wrestling at all, you have got to have somebody that is secure in themselves. That's not something that's talked about enough. If you are a wrestler or you are involved in wrestling at all, you're going to have eyes on you, and not everybody is out to get everybody. And that's something that's, you see a pretty gal, people make assumptions about you. I'm just a friendly person, and I probably get taken away the wrong way a lot of time. But it is what it is. I'm just old country girl that gets along with everybody, and that's how I am. And that's all that is. Like, I ain't trying to take nobody. I've got a sweetheart of my own. He's wonderful. But the fact that he's not possessive and that he doesn't, he's content with the fact that I'm going home to him at the end of the day. That's it. It's a huge change. And it makes all the difference. So not having a possessive partner is fantastic, life-changing. 11 out of 10, highly recommend.
No, I totally agree with you, Jayne. And Rachel's right. Your story is an inspiration. So 100%. So he's a rip.
Yeah, it is Beth and Rip from Yellowstone. Rachel's
I will say this as an analogy: every woman needs a Rip, and every man needs Beth.
Yep.
There we go. For all you Yellowstone fans, there you go. Yep. Superfly Johnny Reed from Nice Gaming Podcast has another question. How does it feel to become a manager again?
It is like I can't use that analogy because Joe's sponsors are watching. I was gonna say it's like doing a very adult thing, very grown up thing. When a man really loves a woman, Johnny, Honestly, that's what it was like. Here's what it was like. And I made my managing debut. It was last weekend. I went. It was on 420, which is funny because I don't partake anymore. Wah wah. Um, you got to grow up sometime. Um, I went back to. Oh look, Austin Cubic Zirconia has decided to join the chat. We're so glad to have you. Um, when I went backstage to Tennessee Championship Wrestling, which is where I made my re-debut, my managing re-debut, it was like being on a roller coaster, man. Like it was just amping up the energy all day long. And then, going out, it's just this huge, huge adrenaline rush. And then you get backstage and you're like, it was amazing. It was great. I love it. I'm not going to do anything else now.
Oh, good. I'm not repeating anything
Honey, I
tomorrow.
understand you're upset that being petty isn't going to make me return your calls. Sweetheart, a Timu suit does not a man make. Austin, you look like you wrestled your first match in a Speedway parking lot.
Ouch. No, yeah, she went there. She went there. Okay. Is there any more questions that we have for tonight's episode? Oh, good God Almighty.
Austin Diamond looks like he goes to his Meemaw's house and asks if he can lick the brownie batter off of the spoon.
Oh, Lord, that was a great answer, by the way. Yeah, Johnny, I agree. Your answer to being back as a manager, because as a wrestler, if that will ever happen again, probably not. That's probably the film we're gonna be like, oh, okay, that was a relief. Time to go home. Let's go to bed now. Oh,
Austin
geez.
Diamond looks like Morgan Wallen, but he's not getting fed very good.
Actually, you got a good point. He kind of does look like Morgan Wallen, just like a bad Jack Skeleton version of it.
Austin Diamond looks like he takes quarters and he gets all of his jewelry at the bowling alley, out of the bowling alley gumball machines.
Okay.
We can keep going.
Oh my God.
The world's least entertaining program. You came here for attention.
I've noticed that he's always come to my show. He always wants to tag me and stuff to get attention.
Bless his heart. Bless his poor little soul.
That's what I tell him. James is like, keep going.
Yeah, I got all day.
Well, I don't care. It's my show. We'll keep going if we want to. Okay, aside from, the reject Screech, does anybody else have any questions here?
I'm not worried about somebody that probably doesn't even pay his own car insurance, so.
Or pay his own anything for that matter. Just like, hang on. I want to say this about something. That was dumb of me to do. I was stupid then. I'm smarter now. So let's just go back. Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, no, he didn't.
You're not even old enough to check in at a Days Inn. Austin, you look like you still play peekaboo at the clothes rack at Walmart and wait for people to find you. But the thing is that nobody's looking for you.
Yes, it was a great show with Jane, Johnny. I agree. So while she's giving a verbal beatdown to Austin Diamond, which honestly isn't that hard to do, let's see if we got any more questions. Looks like Marcus Fine has a question. Do you remember the first wrestling match that you've seen? Ooh, that's a great question, Marcus.
Man. It had to have been somewhere. It was somewhere in like the Hogan Savage kind of era. It was in that like golden WWF era. So I was really lucky. Like I just remembered that hype. Like it was when you called in with a credit card and ordered pay-per-views. That's how old.
Sadly, I remember that. I also remember their fish tanks being in the back of Walmart.
You look like you spent your spare time scaring crows away from corn. Aw, that's so cute.
Marcus Fine is the man. He probably got that scarecrow. Probably thinking of a
I
scarecrow,
am
which he got out of
rich.
his.
That's so sweet. Thank you for noticing, cubic zirconia.
He probably don't know who you're talking about. See, Marcus Fine is definitely the man. That is 100% correct, Johnny. He
He
is the
is.
man.
Marcus Fine is the man. That's a real diamond for you.
His last name Fine fits him to a T. There you go.
He's a fine man.
Exactly. He is a fine man.
And Mrs. Fine, also. Fine lady. They're
Absolutely.
great, great folks.
Yeah, they were at they came to Monticello last week and I was able to chat up with them after like the week previously. Man, I'd love to see you again. Then here I am. All right. Does anybody else got any more questions? Because it looks like Austin Diamond is out of fuel, and that's enough of him spamming poor Jayne here. Jayne, I'm so sorry. Huh. Oh Jesus, Johnny's put himself over. How do you know that Superfly Johnny Lee? What? How you know that Superfly Johnny Lee? Johnny has been fired. No, he hasn't. Well, if he's been fired, then I will definitely hire him. I mean, I got the money to do it.
Whoa, whoa. I'm not trying to stir the pot, but I mean, there's some chaos going on at the podcast, man. I don't know if you want to get into all that, but
I'm Superfly Johnny Lee, dumb Andy. All right. When you get someone else running in the same account, this is where we get confused at. So apparently Austin's got a partner here, which, you can have the guy. But that's aside the point. Jayne, it has been an honor to have you on here. And to be completely honest with you, I've had a lot of fun tonight. So, and I'm sure everybody else here did too. So, where can the people find you at? Go ahead and say all your social media outlets for us real quick.
you can find me here on Facebook. You can either look me up, Calamity Jayne. I've got a nickname on my profile for now. You can look me up, Calamity Jayne. That's Jayne with a Y, Jayne Constant. I'm just on Facebook. I do not do Twitter because I'm entirely too long-winded. I also do not do YouTube because I think it's lame. I'm on TikTok sparingly, super sparingly. Yeah, you can catch me over on Pro Wrestling World. Occasionally, I will do a live for us over there. We did Royal Rumble coverage, we did WrestleMania coverage, we did Elimination Chamber. Let's see. Of course, obviously, Nice Guy Andy podcast. So things are a little bit crazy over there. Go check us out over there. There have been some very interesting happenings happening over at the Nice Guy Andy podcast. I'm the newest member, but there have been some things, some interesting things happening, some happenings. Um, I can't take them nowhere, guys. Yeah. And I'm super thankful, super thankful, super thankful. You guys can catch me. I'll probably be heading back to Tennessee Championship Wrestling sometime soon. I'm also available for other dates for managing. So if you are looking for a manager, I'm neither really a face nor a heel. Calamity Jayne is a bit of an anti-hero. And she will tell you that herself. Kind of like a Drew McIntyre. She's a realist, ladies and gentlemen. She just tells it like it is. So it just kind of depends on you and your shtick. So yeah. So Joe, I appreciate you having me.
No, not a problem
Thank
at
you.
all.
Anytime. It was an honor to be the first female guest here. You obviously have a irritated female, Austina Diamond, in the comments.
Apparently
Like,
so, but I'm not gonna worry about that person. But Clem, it's always an honor to see you, and always an honor to have you on. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you are more than welcome to come on.
thank you.
might invite you to one of our roundtables. But speaking of which, for the future of the Joe Monroe Show, we have we were going to have one tomorrow, but the guy never got back with me, so we won't have one tomorrow, folks. But Sunday we will be back with Shooting with Shane, which will be the last episode of Podcasters Appreciation Month, and also that day I'll be hanging out with Mayhem Media. We're going to talk about Power Rangers with Jaina Pride and our friends at the Squared Circle. So JD, myself, Jaina, and Crander Q. Yes, that is the man's real name. He calls himself the bearded wonder, even though I think I got the best beard in the biz. But yeah, I'll be with Shane tomorrow. Okay, yeah, we'll have him on. And yeah, whatever. I'll find something for Johnny. But and also speaking of tomorrow, in Mayhem Media, they're going to have their first new podcast, Into the Barricade, with the Last Outlaw, Saul Good, Hard Paws, Connor Clarkson, who is over the pond in Mariota, England, and our good friend Frankie Corleone, who made a appearance tonight. So those fellas are going to be on tomorrow night. And I have a special announcement. Jane, I'm happy you're here to be a part of this. The Joe Monroe Show has been in talks with Mayhem Media. They are growing their own network. They will have their own network here pretty soon. And I am proud to say that Joe Monroe has officially, and JD's going to love this, has officially signed on to be part of the Mayhem Media family. So there you go. Any of the Mayhem Media networks we will be on. It's been an offer that I have been thinking about for a few weeks now, and it was an offer I couldn't refuse. I'm not selling the show by all means. No, JD wants me to make this clear. Everything that you see here is still going to be the same. We're just going to add Mayhem Media as one of the sponsors, and also may put their little logo up in the corner. So that's who we're going to do. Awful suit you been purchasing. Good night, Irene Jane. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get off here, folks. So if you can, have a good night, have a great weekend, and thank goodness it is Friday. It's 5:00 somewhere, so go out, have a good time. Whether you drink or whether you don't, I don't care. Just be safe with it. And as always, 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 always support the crazy sport of professional wrestling. We are out.
You've been listening to the Joe Monroe Show with Joe Monroe. Don't forget to like and subscribe.